Welcome aboard, boys and girls, to the live session of the day and of the week. So, without wasting any time, I only cracking straight away with this one because this is pretty interesting what's about to happen. In just under 30 minutes, we have the Canadian dollar, which will be the interest rate. So, this is going to be a spectacle to watch. Now, the market is in a very interesting state. Right now, the dollar index has actually gone to last month. Okay, pretty interesting stuff right now. Price action right now. Now, this range here is really if the price really does close here, for example, this low right here, then we'll be changing the bias to go for a short for now. Now, because of this reaction here, this type 2 reaction, I know that the price would have done some partial reversal. We've had the long. We still have our liquidity gap here on the dollar index, which is right here. And if we recap on scenario number 2 and 1, let's take a look at what we have. So starting back again, we have the H4 order block. This was the reaction we had during the NFP. Since then, we've had very strong shorting. We have a very large liquidity void unfilled here. Scenario number 2, as you guys remember, was for us to have a potential pullback to fill this liquidity void and also to re-optimize the order block here that we had. Let me put this scenario back where it belongs, up here. Now, scenario number 1 scenario is actually playing out. I still have the line here, as you can see. And this is what the price is literally just dropped all the way down, pushing, nothing. We've had some strong body closes. This whole week has been a pretty strong. I actually have it right here. Let me show you what happened. So, right, so green. What here, which come out to be. Now, my apologies there. Let me just reconnect that for a minute. I don't know what I just did. I think that was my hand that did that. Sorry about that. But anyway, like I was saying, we had a massive decrease in the CPI from here. We had from 4%, we've gone down to 3%. So a 1% decrease in the CPI year on year for June. Okay, now this CPI is including food and energy. Okay, when they rebalance the figures. So we've had a very big drop in the price of food and energy, which is a positive sign for a consumer, which means it's costing less. All right. But at the same time, for people who are on the other side, who are the producers, this is not necessarily good for them because they're not making as much nominal value from the same products and services. Okay. When inflation was slightly higher, according to readings, producers were earning more, basically nominally. Now, this also affects stocks as well, because it means that in terms of the inflation that happens on stock prices, okay, that's also decreased too. So that's not a good thing for investors and consumers, or the people and producers, basically. But for consumers, it is. Okay. So coming back to the charts now, let's kind of line this up. So where we are, again, technically speaking, is that the price is currently, let's go to the D1 here. I'll use this chart. So right now, the price is currently at the low of the month of, now it's not the previous month, in fact, excuse me. This is the low of May, and the low of April is not too far away. This is where we are right now. Now, for me, my thing is that the range that we're operating in for this kind of bearishness we have this supply flip zone here that the price is broken above and returned to. Now, the month is not done yet. We still have 18 days left of the month, so we could still actually see the price pushing up further. But at the moment, this strong kind of bearish candle here, if the price does come for these lows, I'll be interested to see how far it goes. Now, beneath here, we have a monthly validation point over here, which is what I'm looking at, that the price may come to. So can the dollar go beneath $100? Most certainly can do. And if it does that, it will be the first time it was beneath $99. Now, when the price came to this low initially, when we had the long, the price was able to keep that $100 figure, okay? If it does drop below $100, that will probably trigger a bit of selling until we get to around about here, which at this point, this will be at the edge of this supply order block here. And if it closes beneath here, then we may have that major pullback here, back down to 95 and 94, which means we have some extended bearishness in the dollar. Okay, now from the readings that we're seeing so far, it kind of goes in line because if inflation is starting to reverse, then there's no need to increase interest rates further for now. And that means that the quantitative tapering program can be paused for now. I still believe that the dollar index is going to have one more major rally on it, back up to at least 116 and beyond. But for now, let's see what the market is going to do. Now, from the range of this, and the range I'm using is from the beginning of this bullish run here to the end, right? From the beginning to the end of this bull run, we're at the equilibrium. Well, now we're really in discount because we're below the equilibrium price point. But because we're in such a high time frame, we're going to have to wait for the price to give us the specifics and nitty-gritties for us to make any decisions on what. Now, what I'm going to do is go down to the weekly here and then to the daily and just see what happens now. At the speed at which the dollar is dropping down beneath these lows, it looks like it's probably going to go for most of these lows. But I don't really know. And today's candle, to be honest, is the most important candle, in my opinion, for the month. Because this is the first kind of candle that's come near to significant price points that make a big difference on how we will take trades, really. So right now, and let's put this on. Right now, the dollar index, if today's candle closes with a body close beneath May's low, which is my turquoise line, and it also closes beneath the low of the previous month, April, with the body of the candle too, then definitely we should be looking for continuation of bearish pressure. That means that for dollar-based pairs, any pair that's paired with the dollar as the quote currency or to the right-hand side of the structure. So for example, something like Euro USD should continue to go long. If it's the other way around, so USD CAD and the etc., then we should be looking for continuation shorts. Now, the Canadian dollar news on a side note is at 3 o'clock, and that's going to be an interest rate decision that we would like to see. Now, if they raise interest rates, then we'll see what happens to the Canadian dollar or USD CAD. But this extended selling off that we're having here, I'm pretty intrigued about. And I would like to see what happens. So I'm going to do some analysis on main CAD pairs and see what we can come up with before the news. My plan is to stay on here and actually cover the news. So let's, see what happens with it. Now, I'm going to start with USD JPY now. One of my good friends and an amazing student as well, Abdul Foyers, gave us a really good shout for USD JPY for the sell. Now, if you remember my analysis from last time here, we have this weekly validation point. And for those of you who are ICT guys talking about a FEG that the price hasn't returned to, on the weekly also, the price has just missed entering into the supply order block, but has pulled back, quite a bit of a way. Now, on the weekly, the way the price is closed here, and I'm going to draw the whole supply order block here, it looks as though the weekly area might actually be violated. Now, the body of the candle hasn't really done that yet. What I am watching for, which is something I was watching for earlier on, is that we have these three lows, which are higher lows that the price has formed, which I knew that there would be liquidity beneath these lows, and at some point the price will go for it. Now, my suggestion when we were having a discussion, me and Abdul Foyers, was that I was expecting the price to actually enter into supply and to retrieve that liquidity, but price didn't actually do that. It came shy of it, leaving an inefficiency over here, and then pulled back for the short. which is pretty interesting. If I go down to the daily here to show you where the markings line up with, now the weekly validation point / FVG has a supply zone that we can take hold of right over here. This supply zone is right here. So with this supply zone being here as it is, then the price didn't return to the supply. We had this induction here, this kind of sell here, and that pretty much took the price into a sell. Okay. Now, if I go over here to write out the daily FVG point right here, validation point, the price didn't actually exactly hit the price. It missed it by a few pips. Okay. If you want to get the specific value, we actually can do that now. So let me just try and straighten this out first. Here, still not straight to me. All right, cool. Let's keep it straight. All right. Now, if we go for the low here, the low is 145,167. Am I correct? 145,167. So I need to put 145,167 here. 145,167. Just use a different color to set this up quickly. All right, so doing those two things here, you can see that the price actually didn't touch any fair value gap. And this is what I was trying to say to you about the market and the algorithm that everybody talks about. The first thing I want you guys to kind of have a picture of is that there are several algorithms in the market. Now, I know that there is the kind of algorithm which you can derive from the fact that there's a certain direction that most price action does in terms of manipulation and etc. But there are several algorithms that occur in the market, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, because every hedge fund would be using algorithmic trading in some form, in some way. And the strategies they trade are not necessarily looking at your stop losses. Okay. High-speed algorithms are designed to take advantage of different market inefficiencies, like apart from just trading inefficiencies like a gap or stuff like that. Other things that algorithms do are things of the nature of arbitrage, okay, which is the fast selling when an asset is priced differently on one exchange to another, buying one asset for one price and sell it to another. There's those kind of things going on. So the black box algorithm that I talk about, or the black box algorithm, is just the reason why it's black box is because people spend millions and hedge funds spend even hundreds of millions to make these very complex algorithms made by very intelligent people to carry out very complex tasks to produce and make money. Okay. So for these things to actually work out and play out pretty well, okay, this is why they are black box. Now, the market order book on how orders are taken into the market, yes, there is an algorithm around that, which is the price delivery mechanism. And yes, that one is what we look at when we look at, stuff like reversals or continuation. But there are other market participants in play who have algorithms that have their own agendas also. Okay, so why I'm saying that is that if the market now, I've drawn these very clearly, these are this is a D1 validation point / FVG. This is a weekly one. The price didn't return to any of those to do any sort of price action, right? So if I go over to the H4 and H1, we had a very simple reaction here, which is a trade that Abdul Foy has caught. And this trade produced a sell that was pretty massive all the way back down here. Now, even though the price filled out the liquidity gap here, the expectations is that the price should be, making its way down further for, some short activity. So what I would say to you guys is that what we want to do is keep an eye on what the price is doing here and make sure that we see price through when it comes to looking at what the market is going to do here. So I'm interested to see what we're going to have with USD JPY. And my thing is that at the moment, the dollar index has, let me just put this here. The dollar index has taken the low of this month, and the low of the previous month is also from May to April is also available too to be taken. Now, my thing is I want to see what happens with USD JPY. If the low of this previous month gets taken, there would be a lot of liquidity beneath here that we can take advantage of, that the market may actually give us a spike up here to fill out this little gap of inefficiency the market has left behind and give us another long move. So because they're pretty correlated and there's strong correlation between the dollar index and USD JPY, this is kind of like one of my trades I'm looking at. Now, I left the 5 minute here because I wanted to remind myself of this so I can tell you guys what I'm looking at. But we have from this range here, this is the news that came out at 1:30. We have quite a weird reaction here where we just have wick price action going on. There's a big gap in price right over here, even though I guess there are prices running here, buy prices offered up here, but still we have no body here. So there is a gap in this price here that needs to be filled out. So I'm interested to see that if the Canadian dollar news might be a trigger to do something along those lines or push the price further. I'm interested to know what's going to happen. So what I've told my students, and I'll tell you too, guys, is that it'd be better not to react to anything in terms of price action until we get to about 3 o'clock. Then we'll be able to know what the market is trying to do. And by 3 o'clock, there is a speech at 4 o'clock, which could cause the price to reverse, which is the Bank of Canada's statement speech about their interest rate decision, why they did it, and etc. Questions from the public, from to Tiff McClem and the other senior governors. But ideally, what we want to see is how the price is going to react here. Now, for all the targets anyway, for all the other pairs, Euro USD is coming towards the target for the initial trade, which was down here very soon. Same as Pound USD. Pound USD, if you see my lines here, the market decided to leave this buy order aggregate here. And if we go over to the D1 weekly here, the price is about to reach up into, and I just want to pull this up here. The price is about to reach up into this supply order block here. And from here, we'll be able to know whether we get this pullback. So the prices are approaching critical areas where there may be some relief or some reversal or some dollar strength coming in, but we won't fully know that until really the end of today. So all of the volatility that comes in is all going to add up to, giving us some interesting price action today. Now, the other thing I wanted to look at was to look at USD JPY. Let me just do something here. USD CAD, sorry. I'm going to steal this chart here and just clear it out. Let me see. So if I go over to USD CAD, and I'm going to go down to where we are right now. Now, remember with USD CAD, what we actually want to see is the price returning to this order block. Now, there is room for USD CAD to go further down because on every price read, it is confirmed that we do have this between the close of this candle and the open of the next candle. From the weekly anyway, there is a gap here. So that can put the price in a position where it may want to sell off. And if it does do that, let's talk about the sell side first, if the market wants to do that. The next order block available in this larger upper thrust in price is here. So if I take the range from here and we look at where we are, the price touching this area has actually come to equilibrium from that range. And the optimal trade entry falls into the gap of this area here. This is from the monthly Fibonacci range coming from here. Now this range is, or this Fibonacci range is an adjusted one for looking at algorithmic levels. So over here, OTE, if I merge it with the other one, would be at the edge of this kind of smaller one here, around 86. So 86, if I take this off, is here. And then OT is over here. So there's an optimal kind of price action range within this area. I want to see what the Canadian dollar news is going to bring. Now, if the Canadian dollar news is actually interest rate increase, then that will be positive for the Canadian dollar, most likely. And that will cause the Canadian dollar to gain more strength. And if that does happen, then USD CAD will go short. Now, there are some interesting kind of correlations here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, which is why I'll say that the market is, apart from the dollar, which is, the correlation is pretty good. If I go to CAD pairs, I'll start off with something like CAD CHF. CAD CHF right now is also selling off as USD CAD is also selling off too. So the correlation is not exactly 100% in the same, manner. USD CAD is selling off, CAD JPY is selling off very strongly from this morning here. And so it's kind of intriguing to see, like, where is it selling off to? Is it trying to reach a specific place? Now, for me, with CAD CHF, if I wanted to give you my analysis on it, for example, when the price took this low, now, to put this into context here, this low that I'm marking out here is the all-time low of CAD CHF since its existence. I've checked this over with TradingView. This low here is a new all-time low right down here. We've had this kind of weekly reaction here. On the lower time frames, on the daily, we actually have broken structure. If I was to take a swing high, even up around here, we have broken structure from at least this point downwards. Now up here, we've had wick closures, so we can't really use those to say we've had a break of structure, but we haven't had that over here. Now, bearing that in mind, if I drag this area here, this order block here, and I drag this line right here, my thing is that when I'm looking at CAD CHF, this might end up being a very good opportunity for another buy to come in, but for that to happen, there'll need to be a sell. And the CAD news may be used to push the price into this order block, which is only 62 pips away from where the price is now. We have 9 minutes until the market is going to release the news. If the Canadian dollar gains or loses strength and it drops into here, this might be a great entry for a really good buy. I'll say this because we've got over here things like equal highs. We have a lot of equal high activity here and relative equal highs all the way back up to November prices. We have gaps in price action all the way back up to 72. So CAD CHF might end up being a really good sell. Now, my thing is that, of course, the correlation is still a bit off. But looking at USD CAD, for example, when it's selling off, if USD CAD also sells off, that would be strange. But, nonetheless, I told you guys that we do have at least the price returning here, if not taking these weekly equal lows. I told you that on my charts, they're 1.31168, but we'll have to kind of see what's going on there anyway. But, in terms of like the weekly reaction here, this is a type 1 weekly induction here. If the price is going to return back down here to go for a long, then yeah, we would like to see that. Now that I've spoken about this liquidity gap on the higher time frame here, let me see if I can grab it. If I can't grab it, it's fine. I'll just do this. Back down here, these two lines, the price may push further. So it's pretty interesting to see. We have, I'm on the H1. The USD CAD is selling. CAD CHF is selling. And this is why these sellings may mean different things. One may actually be the direction. The other one may just be the price trying to pull back into a certain place of direction. So this is why I'm pretty intrigued to see what's going to happen. Now, looking a bit further on CAD CHF is just pretty much of interest to me when I wanted to share it, is that looking at how the price kind of sold off, we had an accumulation here in the range. So I'll just put these two lines to represent an accumulation range. So we had an accumulation all the way from the US session of yesterday until recent. And then when we got to 1 o'clock or 1:30, price broke out of the range. We had this kind of trigger here. Price made a trigger, formed some relative equal highs and equal highs between these two candles to be specific, and then has dropped down here. But because there's this liquidity resting over here because of all the accumulation of orders, I do think that this short that the CAD CHF might do will probably be short-lived before going long again. Okay, so this is why I'm kind of eyeing up this area, because this might end up being, now I wouldn't put my stop loss 57 pips beneath the low for a long, but I would be watching to see what the price is going to do when it gets into that area and see if I can reduce my stop loss by a bit. So I'll be watching to see what happens here. We've got about 6 minutes left until the news comes out. Now, let me just check to see if there's any pairs you guys want me to look at. All right. Let me refresh this. Now, I apologize, guys, if I'm on the feed right now. Mine disconnected. I don't know what happened. But I'm still on the live on mine. So I'm just trying to make sure that you guys are on the live as well. Let me just see. Okay. Anyway, I'm watching to see what we've got going on. Let's kind of see what we've got. Now, if there's any pairs you want me to look at, you can let me know. My focus still is going to be CAD pairs now. I kind of want to just observe them and see, you know, like what the market is going to do with these pairs. If we're going to get that short or we're going to get that long, I want to know. Especially because the correlation is off the way it is. I'm pretty intrigued to see what the price is going to do here. Because both CAD CHF and USD CAD both have room to go for a short. And yeah, let's go over to maybe a couple of more CAD pairs and see what we can dig out. All right, now CAD JPY is also selling off, which is pretty intriguing as well. I do think that CAD Japanese yen pairs definitely will be on their way long. Let's see the last major move that we had. So because we've had this last trend for the longest time since March, and the price is going, we had a type 2 induction, the price went long from that. I'm just very intrigued to see what kind of lows are there. Like I'm looking at this and I'm seeing quite a few equal lows and clusters of buy order aggregates here. So if that's the case, then we might have the bearish dollar come out, the bearish Canadian dollar come out, sorry. Or we might have one of those situations where we have a bearish for the initial news and then bullish when Tiffany McClem starts to speak. That can happen too. But it's pretty interesting to see that there's possibilities for both sides. Now, usually I like to use the currency pairs to make correlations or use more advanced correlation, like using gold as a correlation between different currencies and stuff. You know, looking at Euro CAD, now that the price hasn't actually come back to this unfulfilled efficiency now, I don't know what I just did over here. Just put this H4 situation here. Yeah. Now that the price, for example, hasn't come back down here and it's really broken past quite a few areas, if you remember the analysis, we are looking for Euro CAD to continue making highs until it reaches back to our predefined supply order block at 62 over here, which will be 62 on the Fibonacci, and it will be within this range. So if that's the case, and Euro CAD is going to go long, which it needs to, and it's not going to come back to fill the inefficiency, which is fine, then from that standpoint, if Euro CAD is actually going to push along, then CAD CHF, okay, will push short. All right. Now, because I don't know, for me, when the correlation is off to this degree, it's not a good idea to trade until after, because it's a situation of all will be revealed. And usually when this happens, there are quite a few spikes. Now, we could search out the inefficiencies and price and say, okay, well, there's this inefficiency here. So based on that, we should be looking for X, Y, and Z, you know, just like over here with AUD CAD, which is another one. I've looked at these already, so I'm just kind of having a little chat with you guys. AUD CAD has these equal lows at the bottom of his day here. These are the equal lows right here, and it has a liquidity gap. So it's more of an obvious one to say, you know what, we'll probably be going to get a sell. So this is why I'm, looking for that sell, and I think that we might get that pretty soon. Okay, so that's why I'm interested on the. If you wanted to know, this is why I have these kind of trades set up in my mind, because I'm expecting the price to give us some sort of movement like that pretty soon. Of it probably filling out the gap, but we'll just have to see. Now we've got 1 minute left, just less than 1 minute. I want to watch the news live with you and see what's actually going to happen here. So let's have a look at USD CAD and see how it reacts. All right, the spread is starting to increase a bit. So yeah, let's see what we get from this. But yeah, I mean, if there's any pairs that you guys are looking at, I'd like to hear what you guys are looking at. If there's anything, that would be pretty cool to see. If you don't have any pairs yet and you're on the sidelines like me, then yeah, also let me know too. But I'm pretty intrigued to know what you guys are looking at or trying to go for. And let's see what we get out of these pairs. All right, we've got a couple of seconds left. Let's see what happens here. Let's see what the news does. Okay, so USD CAD has pushed short. So the USD CAD news has pushed us short now. All right, let's see AUD CAD. Let's see if the price is going to fill that gap out. So yeah, USD CAD is a success. It's going short. We needed to get to this order block anyway. So this is really where I'm looking at. I know that the price is probably going to fill out this gap. Let's see how far it gets. Let's look at CAD CHF. Now, interestingly, CAD CHF, it doesn't seem like there's much of a reaction going on with it at all. But I guess because of the highs that were created here, then the market might come back for those highs. Now, it means that this has got positive Canadian dollar strength. So I'm guessing if we were to look quickly at what we've got for the news, then that means that we have a positive result. Okay, here we go. So, yep, switching over here, we do have a positive result. Canada has increased their interest rate decision, as I was saying, and that would produce a positive result there. All right. So it's not over yet because at 4 o'clock, we do have the press conference. So the press conference is really going to separate the men from the boys in a sense that we may actually have quite a bit of erratic price action even after the fact. Okay, so, being said, you should be prepared for, some strong market reactions going on from there. Okay, so be prepared, guys, because it's going to get pretty serious in a moment. And the news is going to really start to push up. Now, I'm in these trades on my smaller account just to test them out. I'm still being a sideline guy. Already, you can see that the price has given us quite a strong drop. And because of these equal lows, I'm expecting the price to sell off here. Now, what I did for me was just to put a quick sell limit. Even though the market's gapped down here, let's see which gap it fills out first, whether it comes back up here and then sells off. We'll see. I'm just going to hold on to this and see how far it goes. Now, I want to see if they had any effect on the dollar index. Yes, it did. So you can see the dollar index has actually pushed further now, and it's getting towards the low of April now. All right, so really starting to heat up again. And of course, this daily candle is so important, and I'm so intrigued to just see how the price is going to close out. So yeah, man, that was the live. Pretty interesting stuff, but stay calm, stay relaxed. Let's see what happens, and I'll catch you guys on the next one tomorrow. Take care.